Something special is brewing in St. Louis as Doug Armstrong continues adding talent like Lucic heading into camp, gearing up for a competitive camp with young players waiting to break through. We get a report from a writer linking the St. Louis Blues to the perfect moves that Doug Armstrong can add to this lineup heading into next season. We're going to break down how Doug Armstrong is strategically adding talent to make a competitive lineup so all players are pushing to make the team, and this writer revealing the perfect player for the St. Louis Blues to target next with a PTO. We're going to break down all this and so much more later on this episode. Before we get into that, Blues fans, I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone watching this. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, make sure to go down and hit it, because we are not slowing down with content for you guys heading into next season. Now with that, let's just hop straight into it today. And before we get into the writer and these key players that are waiting to break through, I do want to highlight something that the St. Louis Blues did post. Showing off their souvenir night. You can see the Wayne Gretzky bobblehead on March 10th. The first 10,000 people to show up does get it. The Mystery Decades hat, which is an awesome hat. Listen, Blues fans, go to leave a comment on what game you're excited for. I'm going to list all the events that they did drop today, just kind of a little snippet to give you guys a look into next season. But a lot of this is awesome. If you're going to one of these games, let me know down in the comments. But with that, let's just hop straight into what everyone wanted to see today. Now, we did see from Yahoo Sports, they did go into 2 more PTO targets to consider. Now, the first one is an interesting one where it is a forward, and looking at the forward group for the Blues, they are pretty stacked at all positions at the current moment. Now, looking at this, we know there's a lot of key players that are not getting out of this lineup no matter what happens, but it does get interesting where this report goes into Luke Kunin, a player that played with the San Jose Sharks before going to the Columbus Blue Jackets, someone that's not going to go out and kind of light up the score sheet for you, but a big penalty killer that loves to throw the body. And I do think if they're going into the realm of adding a veteran with a big body that can hit, we looked at Lucic yesterday, this could be the perfect opportunity to them to fire off another PTO and bring in an exact type like that, but just a little younger. Now, with Luke coming in, he was a minus 24 on the Sharks, but they were quite a bad team last year, throwing 163 hits in 63 games, someone that you can inject straight onto the penalty kill, someone that can play center, though not the highest percentages, 47, 46, and 45 in 3 consecutive years. I do see value with adding a player like this within the lineup if they want to get another PTO, especially if they're moving out some of these players that are not within the lineup. Joseph's a name that we talk about quite a bit, but Kunin could come in on a 2-way that maybe makes it down into Springfield to add some value for the young guys, but also someone just in case one of the centers do go down at some point this year. Now, this was the first name that was tossed in, and listen, there's going to be a lot of healthy competition, but the second guy makes so much more sense in my opinion. Now, we do see Marc, Edouard, Vlasic, and listen, this was a full article where he did do an interview speaking on him hitting free agency, and he said it's exciting, and I'm motivated to trade, find a new team, and put it in the Sharks' teeth. Now listen, it was a pretty bad breakup with the San Jose Sharks where they did let him go, and Doug Armstrong has the possibility and has a realm where he can go out and add another defenseman like we've seen with the Blues doing last year with Suter. Now, Vlasic is not a young defenseman, but Suter, who is 40 years old, not with the Blues anymore. We did see him playing in 82 games, 15 points. This would make sense if you're bringing Vlasic in as an extra depth piece to add to the team. Once again, if you're going into the lineup, the Blues have a lot of young guys throughout the lineup, a lot of young guys that we will touch on shortly, but also defensemen that might just kind of benefit from adding someone with experience as a 7th or 8th defenseman. Now, we do see on the right side, bringing in Mailloux, a very young defenseman, getting in and breaking into the NHL with all signs pointing to him making the team at a camp. Tyler Tucker and Matthew Kessel are guys with limited experience as well, so bringing in Pickle to add him onto this team would add another body like a Suter type that could slide in and maybe even play a good few minutes with Mailloux where he kind of develops a offensive game as we see Vlasic continues defensive shutdown. Now, looking more into Vlasic, he's not going to be the most rough and tough defenseman, but he does add value. He was hurt for a good portion of the year with the San Jose Sharks last year, putting up 3 points. He's not known for his offense, but the biggest thing is someone that can eat pucks on the back end and adds a boatload of experience when it comes in. 2006 was his first season, now without a team, looking for one more hoorah. Wouldn't things feel great if we do see Vlasic step in on this team as a 7th or 8th defenseman, maybe even a PTO, steps in, win a Stanley Cup, and like he said, kind of put it in the Sharks' teeth. And listen, no hard fate against the Sharks, but adding in a guy like this, someone with experience, someone that can help kind of grow these guys, the young guys, help with their development while also helping the Sharks in limited minutes. There is a lot to like on this. Now, looking at the back end, if you do add this, you have a healthy 8 defenseman that can step within the lineup at any point. Cam Fowler and Parayko do not break this up. Broberg and Falk, listen, we have our says about Falk, but still a veteran defenseman that can play within minutes. Now, we do see Tucker and Mayu, a bit of a younger pairing, and this is where I do think Marc, Edouard, Vlasic would slide in perfectly to kind of rotate in. You would have a healthy body every single game, not have to worry about paying Vlasic a lot, where we do know he is getting up in age. He wants to win a Stanley Cup, something he has not been able to achieve yet throughout his career with the San Jose Sharks, though playing a lot of playoff games. It does get interesting in Blues fans. Listen, we're going to touch on 2 young guys that are primed to make a case in camp for this team, but what is your thoughts on bringing in someone like Vlasic? Would you like to add this veteran leadership to the back end, a 7th or 8th defenseman on a very cheap contract? What is your thoughts on Luke? Do you think this could come in as maybe the 5th center on a team they can bounce between the AHL and NHL? And listen, if you bring him on a PTO, if he does get signed and claimed, you're not losing a lot. What is your thoughts on 2 of these guys? But listen, things are going to get competitive going into the camp. We know there's limited spots on this team. The Blues are going to have a bit of cap space, and it gets interesting when you're looking at 2 key young guys in Dvorsky and Carbonneau. Now listen, Dvorsky has shown at every level, the OHL dominant, 88 points in 52 games, going in over a point per game in the playoffs. We've seen him with Springfield last year in 61 games, putting up 45 points, including 21 goals. The biggest thing with Dvorsky is it's not a matter of if, it's a when he breaks into this lineup. And that's exactly how I feel going into next year with a guy like Carbonneau as well. Now, Carbonneau, less experience in the pro level. We've seen him coming out of the queues. We got him as a steal, a pick number 19, 89 goals, or points. Wow, imagine if his goals in 62 games, going into the playoffs with 3 more. The bull in the China shop. He does everything, a jack of all trades. Maybe not the most offensively responsible, but he can still work his twig like a magician when deking at his size as well. 2 of these guys are looking like they're going to be a serious consideration. We're going to see him in camp. We're going to see him in the preseason. And it gets quite interesting if we see Carbonneau slide into the lineup for a couple of games before heading back to the queue, if he does at all. Now, Blues fans, what is your thoughts on this? Is there any other prospects on this team that you think have a better chance to break into the lineup? What is your thoughts on bringing in more PTOs? Listen, Lucic looked like a great addition where you're going to get him in. He's going to bring leadership, and if you can get him on a 2-way contract, that's an absolute steal. Is there anyone else we didn't even touch on in this video that you think makes sense on this Blues team? Let us know in the comments. And speaking of comments, let's go straight into comments of the day. I look at the move like a Maroon signing, big, physical, nasty forward who is slower, who might throw in a couple goals. This is speaking on Lucic. Go check the video if you haven't yet. But I do agree. Listen, the big rig, Pat Maroon, we've seen him at the games going into the playoffs, hyping the crowd up. And listen, if Lucic can even be half of that, that is a perfect signing to bring in within this organization. But that will be it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, go leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We'll be back with another episode, so keep your eye out for that. But I've been your host, Marc, and take care, Blues fans.